Alright, this is crazy to say, but this may actually be the last time I ever make a Dash IE deck tech. Pretty surreal considering that this is what launched my channel. This is what I built my content off of, was specifically Dash Inventor Extraordinaire, the OG mechanologist hero from Arcane Rising. I think she will probably stay around till the end of the season. It's possible that the new Armory deck cards go in her list and maybe it bumps up enough margins that maybe she gets enough wins to go over 1,000 in the next weekend. I'm very skeptical of it, but I do think this is probably gonna be the last time I think I'll in-depth cover this hero, which is a bummer. It's bittersweet, I'll put it like that. And so the biggest upgrade is specifically from the Armory deck. It's gonna be Heavy Industry Power Plant. Now this is pretty important for this deck. There was a couple different ways you could build Dash. You could build her traditional boost where you would display all boost package in your 60, and then you would side into the pistol plan in your sideboard for slower matchups, fatigue style matchups. While we're not going to reinvent the wheel today, there is something really powerful about being able to have a semi-free high octane turn. High octane was not a card that you could just slam and dash, specifically Inventor Extraordinaire compared to Dio. You would need the adequate resources to do it. So if you ever drew like a 2 cost with your high octane, or you were short on blues, or you just had too many conflicting outlets for resources, you normally have to sandbag it a lot of the times. You'd have to sit on it, and it wasn't always really fantastic. Now, there was a mid-range style of Dash. This was definitely popular during the Monarch era into the Tails era, where you would play for this mid-game pivot. You would specifically play Toma Fiendal, so you could play High Octane, play Toma Fiendal from Arsenal, and then have a really powerful turn. You would play some actual pistol items as well in this plan, so that way your power turn with your high octane was usually pushing about like 20 to 30 damage. It is a list that I have covered on the channel before, so here we have this list. It was called Boomer Jund. Now, unfortunately, it is a illegal deck to play because of Tome, but the idea was that you would play this sort of not entirely boost-focused game plan. You would play somewhere kind of in between the two styles, so you have some pistol items, but not the entire suite. And you are boosting a lot, and it was more of a backup, right? You could play Tome and not have all your pistol items out, and it was perfectly fine. If you boosted your purifiers matchup dependent, it was probably okay. It wasn't game losing like it might be if you're playing like pure, pistol dash where that's your only win con. This deck would output damage just fine. This was just a really powerful mid-game pivot that would allow you to catch back up in the game. And so we're trying that again today. The idea is that you are going to hopefully stick 1 or 2 purifiers. You're going to play high octane, and your high octane curve is entirely smoothed out with power plant, because now every time you're boosting, you're getting a resource, which is in essence a free pistol shot. It almost kind of feels like Dio. You get to play out your whole high octane turn, and then how many times you boosted and how many action points you have is basically directly correlated with the amount of pistol shots that you can fire. And when these all come in for 4 in the mid game, that can actually be completely game winning for you. So when we look at the rest of the deck, we're on adaptive plating because now with the Armory deck, we're able to include 2 Cerebellum processors. This card is perfectly fine to run in Dash IE. You're just gonna play it off your Spark or play it at the end of your turn, and this essentially generates 2 Ponder tokens for you, which for a blue is very good. With Power Plant, you still of course want 3 Tekla cores, but I think that Tekla core actually gets a little bit worse when you have access to Power Plant, especially with how easy it makes max feed to play. So Cerebellum will, most of the time when it's bad, in finger quotes, just generate 2 Ponders for you. Lets you end your turn with 2 card draws to Arsenal, which is really amazing for a blue. It's broken for a blue, to be honest. But when you combine it with Heavy Gear Shift or with High Octane, then all of a sudden we are drawing cards during the main phase to play, and then the card becomes broken again. So we're including it as a 2 of. I'm in between splitting it as a 2 to 3 ratio with Tekla core, or if it's supposed to be 2 cores, 3 processors. Haven't entirely nailed that ratio. And then when we look through the rest here, it's a bunch of boost cards. I've gone back and forth over Fast and Furious versus BIOS update. I think ultimately we want more boost cards considering how important Power Plant is. I think if you were to draw into a high octane turn and you drew BIOS update instead of Fast and Furious, I think you're going to be a little bit sad. So we're trying Fast and Furious for now. It could go back to BIOS update because BIOS update hitting Purifier is absolutely insane. We have 1 copy of Max Velocity as a backup plan, or if we're ever in the right pocket for it, if we've had to basically abandon the Purifier, Power Plant, High Octane pivot, It's just a nice backup. We have extra copies in the sideboard, but it's not our main game plan. So currently I have it sided out for the purifiers. When we go through the rest of the cards here, all pretty standard boost cards, right? We have Rainbow, 0 to 60, Zipper Hit, good stat lines. Outpace is like the most marginally good 1/4 with boost compared to Pulse Wave Harpoon, which is really insane. We have T-Bones, just cheap boost cards. We need to have somewhat low curve for the power plant. If we run too many 2 costs, we can actually make it a little bit difficult to really capitalize on this. But we are going to run Twin Drive, of course, because this synergizes with both Power Plant and with High Octane. And then, of course, we're on Throttle, because that one's actually insane. We have our 3 Sparks, of course, insane card. And we have a 1-up Tekla Pounder if we're forced to go first. And we have a Spark of Genius. It's the best Spark of Genius target that we can have on turn 1 besides Purifier. But I've also messed around with the idea of being able to start with this in Mainboard and starting this on the table and then siding in an extra copy of Max Fee based on the matchup. So let's go down into our inventory. Our inventory is pretty split. We once again have standard dash control stuff. So we have Fates, Sinks, and Movables. This is what you're always are familiar with. 2 extra induction chambers, so that way we can go up to 3 and 2 Purifier. The mash shakes out at 9 resources to activate and shoot your pistol 4 times when it's buffed up by 2. And so it's just the cleanest number. Sending 4 3 times will win every single endgame for you. You don't need to go up to 3 Purifiers, in my opinion. I think it's pretty marginal past the 4. You just need to make sure you're on a break point with the pistol, so that way late game you're actually stripping cards from your opponent and you eventually will actually win the game deterministically. Max Fee is in here, right? If you ever need more poppers, if you want more aggro package, you want less of this Purifier pivot in the mid game, then you can start increasing your number of max fees. And we have our AB3 down here. So maybe cards are going to include BIOS update like we talked about. This card is really powerful. I'm worried about the boost consistency, specifically running Power Plant now. We have Spring a Leak is really good Dio tech. So if you're in a meta where you want to be teching for Dio, I think this is probably the best card you have access to. I would say Dio's best anti-mech card is TikTok Clock. You don't have that kind of ability, right? So you're not really getting the kind of crazy value that she is getting out of Clock. So the best thing for you is a 2 for 5 boost with Spring a Leak. And if you threaten to remove all the counters off their processor, off their Tekla core, off their pistol, if their pistol's at 6, this card can get really absurd value-wise. And then we have a second copy of Pounder. We could experiment with being able to main Pounder and then have the second copy in the deck in case if we're on the play and we want to play Spark. So that's the deck. It's just how it has always been. You're playing mainly min-range. Your cards all block for 3, which is really good. So make sure you're just kind of min-maxing your math a lot. It's perfectly fine to block with, let's say 2 cards, keep a blue, go load induction, load pistol, shoot pistol, activate induction, refire the pistol for 4, right? So you just like make a cool guardian hammer that's split into 2, and then you can go ahead and arsenal your card. You're perfectly fine to play the game slow. That's always been the nice thing about this deck, especially if we're running, adaptive now, right? Because you can galvanize your processor. Then all of a sudden, your fridge gets a lot better. Your deck is concentrated with 3 blocks. You have the ability to slow the game down even into mid-range style matchups. And into aggro, of course, you always have the ability just to convert all of your hands to damage if you need to. I mean, these all convert insanely well. But you also have good mid-range lines, right? Like you can block 6, boost a throttle, use the leftover resource to swing pistol, and all of a sudden you have a 2-card 8, so you have a 14-point cycle. Not bad. So let's get an example game just so I can show you what I mean by this like mid-game pivot with the 2 cards. So we'll go ahead and jump into that. All right, so here we have a game against Viserai. We are going to obviously start induction. It's just going to be our main game plan here. So ideally, what we want to do is play a little bit more mid-range focused. Obviously do good trading, pressure when we need to. But then if the opportunity presents itself, we are going to set up 2 purifiers and then look for a high octane line. And the ideal thing about this, of course, is that after we play the high octane, if we have a few purifiers, we're able to actually start converting the induction chamber into 2 swings for 4 at the end. Unfortunately, my Viserai opponent probably gets one of the best turn 1 openings they could ask for, so we are going to be playing incredibly behind. We'll try our best to make up for it. If we're ever back to the wall, we always can galvanize our induction chamber as well. Not ideal for us, of course, but it is possible. I like the idea here of throwing the throttle, loading the pistol. I'm a little bit nervous about boosting unnecessarily here, but I'm kind of feeling like we might need a race, so it's probably okay. It's always a bit of a bummer if you do actually hit a Purifier. Although something's telling me with an opener of 6 rune chance, we may not have the time to set it up. We will try our best. Not the worst turn. We converted 4 cards to 13 with 2 blues, so not amazing, but not the worst thing I've ever seen. I think our plan here is maybe to block down with these 2 cards, with the Furious and the Velocity, pitch into our Pistol and Induction Chamber, send 4, and then arsenal our High Octane. We're gonna go ahead and skip all the rune chance. If they have Succumb, it really does suck, but we at least can block 3 here, which we were planning to do anyway. That's nice for us. Another Dirge is crazy, so that's all 3 reds gone. They still have Revel though, so that's definitely a problem for us. Drawn, we're not gonna block any of the rune chance. Our blue is just better on offense, right? Because we get to send 4 with it, so this is strictly better here. My opponent's definitely gonna activate creepers here. I'd be very shocked. Oh, they have Rattlebones. Oh, so even better, honestly. Although they're just getting Rune Rager. I mean, it is pretty good here, to be honest. I'm still slightly worried about Succumb, but I think I would have seen it at this point. So I'm going to gamble that they're not holding Succumb, and we were safe just to keep our blue for 4 damage, and then arsenaling our High Octane. I am going to need them to brick a little bit here, though. The other ideal thing, though, is that if we block with this, we could potentially put them on a hand. They need to convert, and it could be a little bit awkward. Although them having to block 2 and 2 is already inefficient enough, so it's probably worth it just to send the 4. It is an insane turn for my opponent, though. This is what, 26 damage, and they still get to keep an arsenal? Because we're taking 20, we block 6, and they still have an arsenal. That's what an insane turn, honestly. Really bad for us. Not happy to be in this position at all. Glad to see that Dash still has an abysmal Viscerai matchup after all these years. So we're just going to do our 1 card 4. The fact my opponent isn't blocking either is not a good sign for us. We're probably going to have to fire off our High Octane a lot faster than we want to. We'll probably have to do it without the Purifiers as well. It's entirely possible that we draw a Purifier and we need to go off with High Octane, so instead we just crown it away, which is always the nice flexibility of Providence. That's why we play it. Yep, there's a Purifier, right on time. This hand with High Octane kind of sucks. We have 2 blues, which isn't ideal. I think we might be safe enough, maybe, to load the pistol, play Purifier, and just hope that next turn my opponent doesn't throw half of our life total. I was just going to say, always playing Become feels bad compared to just pitching it or blocking with it. So here, I do kind of want to think about turning off Creepers. I'm holding on to my blocking card just in case something goes completely south by the end of this turn, and in that case, I'll be glad that I had blocked with my Tackle Core for the Rune Chance. So they're definitely going to pop Creepers here. I think it's very likely that we may need to pitch this other card for this turn. I don't see a reason for me to block this though. Succumb off of Creepers would suck for us. So there's an argument I'm supposed to stick the Outpace in front of it. Smashing Good Time is very interesting here. That's fine, they destroy the Induction Chamber. But the cool part about this deck is if we're going to play for Purifier anyway, then Induction matters less. And if they don't have an attack, then we're actually in a really good spot. Is it just going to be a Reaping Swing? If it's just a Reaping Swing, we're really happy about this. Here's the only thing though. I think we're going to pay for the Rune Chant, and we're going to skip out on 2 life. That kind of sucks, but I really do want to turn off Creepers. This turning off Creepers seems so important here. And then we're going to play our Purifier and pass and hope that we can live. This is a very good hand. So if our opponent doesn't present lethal, I think this is probably where we want to do our turning point. We have the ability to High Octane, Twin Drive. We're going to pop our Power Plant. We can go get Processor, which is actually pretty nuts, honestly. I'm very happy to see main phase Rattlebones, especially with no swarming, so it's probably just going to be Rune Rager. Yep, looks like it was Rune Rager. Okay. No Succumb. We're fine to not block this. Succumb is just the only card I'm worried about, honestly. I don't even think we want to Providence anything out. We could get rid of the Spark, but I think the Spark does a lot for what we want. On the off chance there is Succumb, we're going to block this with the chess piece. I'm just hoping and praying that they don't have Revel. Revel means that we have to block more, which I just do not want to do at all. Wow, we got away with murder here. Okay, so we're taking all this, and we're gonna look for our pivot. We ideally would want 2 purifiers, but we'll be happy with 1. I didn't even think we were gonna even get to this point, to be honest. So let's go ahead, let's play our High Octane. And we draw a processor. That's pretty interesting. We're gonna pop our power plants, and we're gonna play 0 to 60. We're gonna boost. So we have a few options now. We could actually go get the second purifier here, but it's entirely possible that just extra processor draws is really good for us. We need to think about this math a little bit. So we play the twin drive. We're gonna get our 2 resources back, which is really insane with power plant. So we're gonna be at 2. And we're going to have... This is going to cost 1. Let's go ahead and play this first, and then we'll reevaluate what we're doing. So we're going to boost both times. It refunds itself. It's a 0 for 5. That's pretty sweet. So we load the purifier. We go down to 1 resource. And we're going to have, what? 4 action points. It'll be 3 left over after the spark. And if we go get purifier, I'm under the impression I think it's just better EV to go get another processor and redraw for more cards for High Octane. There's a chance this goes south really fast though. That's the only thing I'm worried about here. So we'll think about this. Okay. So they're doing this to make us discard. We're gonna discard processor then, and we're just gonna go spark for a processor. So never mind, our choice is made for us. So let's go ahead and pay 0 for this. Let's go get processor. We're gonna crank it. That's a really bad draw. So we're gonna hope that we draw a boost card here. That sucks, but it'll do. At least it's 4, and then we're gonna get our 4 pistol shots in. That's really good. Although we are at 5, so not super amazing. And so you can see where this would be really good if we had the second purifier out. We would be able to be sending 4 every single time here. If we had a cheaper boost card as well, we're able to get 2 more shots in. So let's say that we draw a 1 or a 2 cost, then that's potentially 1 to 2 more pistol shots we get this turn. And that does actually matter with Achilles up here, right? So it's pretty likely we could have actually pressured lethal on our opponent, for sure, if we had the second purifier or if we drew a cheaper card. Because the cheaper card, we can potentially get 1 more shot in here, as well as something maybe better statted to attack them with, but we can at least block with adaptive in the next 2 turns. So it looks like our turn is just going to be probably hoping to keep outpace, so that way we can send 7. Although with Mordred out, something tells me we're probably going to have to block a lot this turn. Yep, that looks like it's the case. So let's go ahead and pitch out. We can at least send T-Bone into a Cerebellum draw if we really need to. So let's go ahead and block with our outpace first. Although I'm pretty sure Revel just kills us. We'll see. Okay, we're not super dead yet. So let's go ahead and pay for these. Okay, it is looking good. Do kind of Wish that we could have kept some more cards though. I'm kind of feeling like we should block with the T-bone here. We're gonna have a lot of blocking potential next turn. That's a hard call to make. I am worried about going too low because of Rune Chance, so let's just hope that they brick. Although given their draws so far, I'm not super sure about that. We can at least activate our processor for a new card draw. That's really nice for us. And then we're gonna get to galvanize our processor here. Okay, this is our window back in because there's a chance that this thing bricks. If they pitch into it and brick, we are super happy. Okay. I need this thing to whiff so bad. That was the opposite of a whiff. Oh, actually no. They reveal 1. So we're just pitching. We're not taking Arcane this turn. We just can't afford to go too low. And we have access to 5 block on armor. Our dream hand is that we get to keep Throttle and a blue, so that way we get to send 8 at them. We're gonna block it for 5. Okay. If they brick it all here and they just send something like Reaping, then we're going to just adaptive it with Processor, and then we're going to keep all of these cards and convert the extra blue into potentially a second pistol shot. I'm very happy to see Grass get used here. I'm not happy to see Rune Flash. That sucks. Go ahead and pitch for it. Alright, well, I think we're kind of cooked, to be honest. We had a good run this game, but you know, I can't be too surprised with how poorly the game started. That was probably the worst high roll we could ask for from the Viceroy side. I mean, they got the stack, what, 6 damage on us turn 1? Now we're down 1 life, we can't even keep our throttle play, which is a huge bummer. We're just gonna go ahead and arsenal it, hope that we get the chance to keep another 1-card hands for it. And just hope that they brick. We have 2 blues, so, you know, can always play out of these somehow. Going to 1 is basically a Descends against specifically Vexing, so we can't go to 1 in this matchup, unfortunately. Although we may just be dead. Yeah, we're just dead to this. So that's game. Bit of an unfortunate one. But you can see how that pivot turn was actually pretty decent, considering how badly we were behind the entire game. Like, we shouldn't have even gotten that close to winning, but we still were able to present 25. So that's the kind of pivots you're looking for with this deck. You're just looking for a mid-game pivot that involves, you know, Power Plant plus High Octane. And the more Purifiers you have, the more damage you do. And also keep in mind, that was with the Face Purgatory trigger. Like, that was such a frustrating game. Like, nothing went well, but we were still able to assemble that in the mid-game and almost turn the corner. Like, if they don't have that turn 1 play, and even better if we get to go turn 1 and stick something ourselves, like, we have this game on lock for sure. Like, 1 more health here and we're able to actually send the throttle with the pistol, and that potentially changes the entire dynamic of what's going on. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm not going to bother recording until I win. I just want to get 1 game out there for y'all to check out. So until next time, thank you for watching.